Welcome back, my kings and queens, my goddesses and gods. I am Donny Gerald. You've reached the path of the Illuminati, the only channel on the face of the earth that will take you on a step-by-step process to your very own enlightenment. Now remember, what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is the secret hidden science of how you are able to activate 100% of your brain's power and capabilities. Yeah, hit the subscribe button. You're not going to hear it anywhere else. Nowhere else. Hit the subscribe button. Now, with that said, my kings and queens, my gods and goddesses, I have been teaching you a lot of information in my past videos, such as everything that you think is true is actually false. Everything that you have been taught since birth has been a complete lie, except a little bit of math and a little bit of science. In the last video I just did, I actually explained how that was true. How they have made you sign a birth certificate, and that is actually a title to your physical body. Notice how the birth certificate is blue, just like a car title. They look exactly the same. That is because the birth certificate is a title to your body. The government now has possession of the title and therefore owns you and your body. You are a slave. I also explained how they tell you it's a good thing to give your baby a name. The name is the mark of the beast. Linked to the name is 3 trust funds, which we'll get into in a later video. Those 3 trust funds are known as 666. Those 3 trust funds are linked to your name, which is the mark of the beast. The name is linked to the birth certificate, which is a title. The government has taken possession of the title, and the title gives them ownership over your physical body. Just one of the ways you have been lied to and deceived since birth. Check out my videos, it'll explain that. Okay? Now, the reason why I'm telling you that is because I am coming at you with information that I'm telling you is the truth. So eventually down this path, down this journey, you're going to ask me a question. And that question is going to be, well, Donny, if the whole world is lying to me, and the elite and the rulers of the world and the leaders are all lying to me and giving me false information, how do I know that you are also, how do I know that you're not giving me false information? And that's a legitimate question. Legitimate question. And I will tell you, when I was going through the beginning processes of my enlightenment, I asked that exact question to my first teacher. And I was very blunt about it. Isaiah, if you're out there and you see this video, I love you. But I literally, after about a month into it, literally walked up to him and said, look, you're telling me everybody else is giving me false information and everything's a bunch of lies. Well, how do I know that you're not lying to me? How do I know that I should believe and trust in you? He looked at me and he said, the only thing that I can do is promise you with all my heart that I'm telling you the truth and that the path that I'm leading you on is the correct path. And that's what he told me. It was enough to get me to trust him and follow his path. Lo and behold, it turned out to be the truth. and it turned out to be the correct path. And at the end of the path in my journey, something happened. Something big happened. Stop with that. But we are at the point where you might need to ask me, well, Donnie, how can I trust and believe you? How do I know that you're telling me the truth and leading me down the right path? And it's a wonderful question. And I'm going to answer your question with a parable. And the parable goes like this. A long time ago, before Egypt, there was an extremely prosperous city, and it was called Babylon. In Babylon, there was one man in particular that was the richest man that ever lived. Everybody knew him as the richest man in Babylon. One day, the richest man in Babylon was scheduled to come into the city and give a speech. The whole town started talking. And they all said, man, we need to go see the richest man in Babylon speak, because we might learn the secret of how he became so rich. So the richest man in Babylon came into the city and stepped up on a podium, and the whole city came to watch him speak, to learn the secret of how he became so rich. The richest man in Babylon spoke for about an hour, but never revealed the secret of how he became so rich. So at the end of the speech, a few people lost hope and walked away, and a few people stayed and tried to shake his hand, and some did get to shake the richest man in Babylon's hand and tried to get the secret out of him, but they weren't able to get the secret of how he became so rich out of him. So once the majority of the crowd left, there was a little boy about 7 years old, way in the background, and he thought to himself, man, I wish I could learn the secret of how the richest man in Babylon became so rich. So once the crowd cleared, the little boy ran up to the richest man in Babylon and tugged on his coattails. The richest man in Babylon looked down at him and said, yes, my child. The little boy looked at him and said, sir, if it wouldn't inconvenience you too much, could you tell me the secret of how you became so rich? The richest man in Babylon looked down at him and said, I will, my child, if you meet me at the water's edge at the time of the sun going down, and left. So later on that day, as the sun began to set, the little boy ran to the water's edge, and lo and behold, the richest man in Babylon was standing right where the beach met the water, where it met the ocean. He turned and looked at the little boy, but instead of saying anything, he walked out into the water. He walked until the water came up to his knees, kept walking until the water came up to his waist, and then kept walking until it came up to his chest. He turned and looked back at the little boy, and then waited further until the water came completely up to the richest man in Babylon's neck. He then turned to the little boy and said, my child, come to me. And the little boy at that time was kind of freaked out. He said, why did the richest man in Babylon go neck deep into the ocean and want me to come to him now? The little boy was scared. He was weirded out and freaked out. But again, the richest man said, my child, come to me. So the young boy mustered up the courage and went out into the water about knee deep and stopped. The richest man in Babylon said, no, my child, come closer. So the boy, still freaked out, mustered up a little more courage and waded out further until the water came up to his waist and stopped. The richest man in Babylon looked at him and said, "No, my child, come closer." So the little boy, even more scared now, waded out a little further till the water came up to his chest and stopped. The richest man in Babylon said, "No, my child, come all the way to me." The boy really scared now because he knew if he went any further, his feet would leave the sandy ground and he would be in the water. He would be swimming, so he knew he would be vulnerable. So he was scared, but he trusted. He trusted and built the courage and faith, and he swam to the richest man in Babylon. Right when he got to the richest man in Babylon, the richest man in Babylon grabbed him by the hair and dumped his head under the water and held him there. The boy started struggling and panicking. He tried to push up, but the richest man wouldn't let him up. The young boy couldn't breathe. He couldn't breathe, and he tried to bust up again, and he couldn't. The richest man in Babylon was too strong. So the young boy began to fight. He started to scratch the rich man, and he started to punch him in the stomach. And while doing so, he tried to go up again, but the richest man was just too strong. He couldn't do it. So in one last ditch effort, the young boy tried to reach over his head and hit the richest man in his Adam's apple. But he missed. And at this point, the boy was about to give up as he was struggling. But right as he was about to give up, the richest man in Babylon released his head and the boy shot out of the water. And as he shot out of the water, he took the deepest breath that he's ever taken. He breathed in all the fresh air. And at this point, in shock, he stared at the richest man in Babylon. The richest man in Babylon stared back at the young boy and said, "My child, in order to become as rich as me, in order to become as rich as me, you need to work and fight as hard for it as you worked and fought to breathe while your head was under that water." The richest man in Babylon then walked away. My kings and queens, my goddesses and gods, on your journey to enlightenment, activation of 100% of your brain's power and capabilities to become the true God and goddess that you really are, you have to work and fight as hard as the little boy fought to breathe under that water, to accomplish your goal of enlightenment. Most importantly, you have to trust your teacher just as the little boy trusted the richest man in Babylon. And all I can do is the same that my first teacher did for me, and that was to promise you that I will give you nothing but the truth, and to promise you that the path that I set before you is the correct path and the right path, and to promise you that if you follow my process, at the end of that path, something gigantic will happen to you. With that said, my gods and goddesses, my queens and kings, I love you all very much. Donny Gerald signing out. I'll see you on the next video. Love you all.